Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Titans Season 3, and this is going to be my review and breakdown for Episode 5 for this season, otherwise entitled Lazarus, which based on the title, I think we know where it's going to go, but of course, spoiler alert if you've not watched the episode, because we're going to jump into everything that happens in this episode and talk about it in some sort of depth, if you want to call it. But of course, if you have watched the episode, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on the episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What were the parts that you loved? What were the parts you hated, if there were any? Let me know in the comment section down below. Always curious to hear your opinions. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, it would be awesome to drop a like on the video, and just if you enjoyed the episode as well. And if you are new to the channel and want to stay up to date with any of these Titans reviews, why not drop a subscribe? Is that what they say? Drop a subscribe? Whatever it is. You know what I mean. But last episode, of course, we had the Blackfire stuff going on with Starfire or Corey, as well as Gar or Beast Boy. So they went and dealt with that tiny bit of a road trip, if you want to call it. But we sort of left there. We didn't touch on this at all in this episode. But of course, then we had the whole, road trip, with Dick Grayson or Nightwing, as well as Scarecrow involved around what was happening with the Red Hood. And that pretty much leads into this episode. But we left off last episode with the Nightwing versus Red Hood fight, where Nightwing is shot, Red Hood manages to get away, and we're a bit unsure about Scarecrow because he got zapped by that force field. I'm like, well, did he die? Did he get knocked out? What's going on? But Nightwing goes into the cabin, and Scarecrow's no longer there, so, he's got a loose end that he needs to tie up, potentially. But this episode was another great episode for this season. Like, who would have thought we would be having 5 solid to great episodes to start off this season of Titans after watching the season 2 finale? Like, it's honestly crazy. If you said that we were going to get that, I would have rung up Arkham Asylum, to be completely honest. But this episode was obviously carried, on the back, shoulders, ankles, head, neck, whatever you want to call it, of Curran Walters as Jason Todd. And it almost felt like a backdoor pilot. Like, I know there has been talk about some type of Red Hood property also coming out in HBO Max, whether it's associated with Titans or just another Red Hood incarnation. But this felt like this was the direct setup for a Red Hood show. But of course, we know Red Hood continues past this episode in this season. But yeah, just if you just showed this to me just as it was, I'd think it was either the pilot for a Red Hood show or a backdoor pilot through Titans. So yeah, that's what it felt like to me, at least. But in regards to this episode, we do pick up right where last episode ended, with Jason, or Red Hood, following that fight with Nightwing, where Scarecrow approaches him. So he's alive. That was after being yeeted back by that force field. Just a bit unsure what happened there. Maybe he was playing dead. I'm not too sure. But this is where we flash back to 3 months ago, where we have Jason freaking out and tripping out around Wayne Manor. We even see him getting shot by a mysterious figure, wondering who's that, and everything like that. With Donna, or Wonder Girl, approaching him in a very eerie manner, with it turning out to be a dream. Now, these dreams have been happening for a few weeks, and Bruce Wayne hands Jason the deal. It's like, yo, you go see Leslie Tompkins, a psychiatrist, you get all that dealt with before getting to go back out as Robin. So, we get, do this, you get that. So, a bit of a deal from Bruce. Now, we had Jason and the introduction of his friend Molly in this episode, and they look into the disappearance of a young orphan known as Diego, where they come across a thug associated with the Joker. And while he doesn't give anything up, when push comes to shove, the trauma suffered from the events of last season for Jason with Deathstroke and everything like that, as well as just Jason's bad past as a whole, makes him freeze up and just feel overly vulnerable, and obviously just open himself up for an attack. Now, this leads directly into Jason's opening session with Leslie Tompkins, which was pretty eye-opening, to say the least, not only thanks to Leslie's first-hand account of being a victim to Scarecrow's fear toxin, but just Jason's inability to open up in any way, shape, or form, and just keeping things as suppressed as possible. I was like, okay, well, is that going to stay suppressed? That's going to lead into some stuff with Red Hood, or is it going to be some sort of opening session? Obviously we'll come back to that. But definitely the Easter egg moment of the episode was when we had Jason going through Batman's vault of confiscated items, or the trophy room, shall we call it. And I think even Bruce or Batman calls it his trophies. So he sees Scarface, or the ventriloquist's dummy, Two-Face's coin, Joker cards, Ra's al Ghul's sword, or it could have been Talia al Ghul's sword, one of the two. I'm going to say it's Ra's al Ghul's sword, Catwoman's goggles and whip, and finally Scarecrow's mask, along with a vial of his fear toxin, which is the main course in the eyes of Jason. Now, a scene I wasn't expecting too much was that I guess you would call it heart to heart, or the closest thing to a heart to heart that we'll see between Jason and Bruce. Neither felt overly sheltered off from each other, with Bruce even calling Jason son. Like, I've had my issues with Ian Glenn's take on Bruce Wayne. I know it's meant to be like an unorthodox version, but this sort of felt like I actually sort of like felt in line with him. And I actually sort of just felt compassion in that scene. So I thought it was a great scene between the two. And honestly, I would argue it's probably my favorite scene with Ian Glenn's Bruce Wayne. So that's an improvement in my eyes. And obviously, if you already liked his take on on Bruce Wayne and enjoyed it as for what it was, then obviously I'm sure you would have loved that scene. But yeah, Jason's second meeting with Leslie actually made some progress, with Jason admitting that he isn't shit without Robin. Well, that's how he feels at least. And of course, the progress that wants to be made is to make Jason want to be Jason, not have to be in a suit to feel like he has some sort of purpose in his life. He can be Jason, and that can be his purpose. And that's a big thing. And also just, highlights just moving on from Robin into another mantle, if you want to call it. But yeah, I thought that was a good scene between Leslie and Jason. Now, I was sort of intrigued when Bruce took Jason to Crime Alley, but then he just leads into this, like, once again, sort of like carries on from that heart to heart from earlier in the Batcave, and he apologizes for pushing Jason into the life of Robin, and he wants to move Jason out of that role, which is Bruce showing a lot of care and compassion for Jason, but Jason feels like it's like he's being punished almost, as if he did something wrong, and he's feeling the repercussions from it, almost like he failed Bruce. But Jason is now as motivated as ever to prove Bruce wrong, to prove who he truly is and what he truly can do, as a crime fighter, as Robin, everything like that. But this is where we start to get the connective tissue from what we've been seeing in the present day. So Jason goes to Arkham Asylum after a nice little like FU call to Leslie, and that is to meet with Jonathan Crane, or, Scarecrow. Now, Jason is there to inquire about the possibility of producing an anti-fear toxin, and this is to rid fear rather than to bring it on, obviously. Now, Scarecrow quickly figures out that Jason is Robin due to him having a vial of the fear toxin, which obviously would be a very, very rare item. Now, Jason offers inside information on Batman, some hashtag exclusives, if you want to call it, for Scarecrow, with Scarecrow also wanting to get out of Arkham as part of this deal. So Jason's putting a lot on the line, stabbing a lot of people in the back, if you want to call it, in order to push forward what he wants to do. Now, I did like Jason's Breaking Bad montage, if you want to call it, leading back to all the chemistry books he had, trialing and testing for the perfect anti-fear toxin, which I personally think is a bit dangerous. I mean, if he had some sort of like permanent lung damage after that, it wouldn't surprise me too much. But I guess based off what happens next, later in the episode, well, actually soon in the episode, I guess it really doesn't matter. I guess any permanent lung damage, I guess it'll just get repaired. But yeah. But I found it funny that Scarecrow even made a reference to Breaking Bad in the episode. I don't know if that actor's been on Breaking Bad. Maybe that was the whole point. Not too sure if the actor, like the Scarecrow actor, had been on Breaking Bad. But yeah, they pointed out the obvious reference, which was, I guess, spot on. But Scarecrow's final test for the anti-fear toxin isn't to like go stand on top of a building, do the Macarena, whatever it is. It is to go face the Joker, which leads us to the events from the beginning of episode 1, where Joker kills Jason, with Scarecrow smiling at the news of it coming through Arkham. But then we get pretty much a lot of the things from previous episodes put in context, put in a timeline, if you want to call it, with Jason taken from the morgue like we saw previously, but we get to see him getting placed into a Lazarus pit of sorts. Obviously, it's not any sort of Ra's al Ghul sort of, intercontinental Lazarus pit, but it is a Lazarus pit. Now, we did have Scarecrow dancing along to that In-A-Gadda-Da Vida, what it is, by I'm Butterfly. It just reminds me of that Simpsons episode when Bart makes the church sing a hymn along to the tune of that song. I was laughing because of that, but anyway, Scarecrow is celebrating the conquering of man's greatest fear, that being death, and this is just the start of it all, this being the birth, or you could argue the rebirth of Jason Todd, might I say, and the birth of the Red Hood. Now, I did like how they finished off the episode. So they finished off the episode by us seeing Jason sort of tying off the loose end from the beginning of the episode, or towards the beginning of the flashbacks at least, by taking out Hoskins or Hopkins, whatever his name was, doesn't matter, I guess, seeing he had a hole in his head now, or by the end of the episode. But we did get him finding Diego and getting him to safety with Molly, and it did show that Jason at that point wasn't completely gone. Like, there is some sort of like compassion still there, or at least this, I don't know what you would call it, like this vision that he wants to push forward as Red Hood, or it could just be his last little mission as Robin before he moves on to this other side of his life. But of course, we did get his last words to Molly for, I guess, a while, if not forever. It's important to remember that Jason Earl in the episode wanted to apologize to Molly in person, but he never got to properly apologize to her, which he planned to do. So honestly, it's a bit sad that he didn't actually get to do that. But yeah, I'm not too sure if they'll come back to that later in the season, or that's just for this episode and in in Jason's past specifically, and it's not in Red Hood's future. But yeah, this was not like a massive episode in regards to pushing the story forward. Obviously, it was really just recounting what happened to Jason and giving us that view into what happened to him, which I really appreciate. I love a good flashback episode, especially when it does flesh out a character and shows us what happened, obviously, because it just ties off loose ends. And I think they did this really well. I could have seen, like, this could have been, well, I think this is probably very similar to the Superboy episode from season 2, where that sort of like connects to the current story at the end, while this sort of connected to the current story from the beginning, and then we flash back. So very, very similar to the Superboy episode, which was easily the best episode of season 2 and arguably one of the best episodes the show's done. So it's a good comparison. But this definitely had to be its own episode. I don't think they could have done something where they're randomly flashing back with Jason and then continuing something in the modern day. I think this had to be its own episode, and I'm happy they, gave it its own episode and focused in on it, because I think it needed it. But yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, it's another great episode. Fleshed out Jason, showed us all this Red Hood stuff. I'm excited to see where it gets, pushed forward heading into the back half of the season, because we're almost halfway through this season now. Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions, what your favorite part was, any theories going forward, everything like that. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, enjoyed the episode, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show your support as well. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.